For mounting the tire on a regular wheel, the first thing you want to do is, if it's a brand new wheel, you want to make sure you've got a valve stem in it. You're going to be really mad if you go to mount the tire and then realize you haven't put the valve stem in it. This is an old one, so I don't have to worry about that. It's already got a valve stem in it. It is an old wheel. The lip's kind of beat up. That's going to make it a little bit more difficult, but we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll put the new wheel on it, or new tire on the new wheel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by trying to get this bottom lip hooked in the tire. We'll set the tire over, and then I'm going to use my spoon here to kind of work the tire on. So, get the little lip started. Get my spoon. I'm going to use my hand to hold it so it doesn't come on. And I'm just going to try to work my way around. Alright, got the back side on. I'm going to do pretty much the same thing for the front side. Okay, same type of deal. I'm going to use my foot to kind of hold it down. Use the spoon. Just going to try to walk it on the wheel. Alright, that wasn't too bad at all. Alright, the next step, what we need to do is put the valve stem back in. I've already gone and done that. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about this stuff. One thing I'm using is this air chuck. I really like this. It's got a little clamp that actually holds it onto the valve stem, so I don't have to physically hold it. This helps me out in two different ways. One is sometimes the wheel doesn't like to sit just right on the rubber, or the rubber doesn't like to sit just right on the wheel, and you can't get a good seal to start with. And the best way I found is just basically to hit it with your hand and hope it takes a seal. I can't do that if I'm holding my hand on it. The other thing is, if you have to use a lot of air to air the tire up, it can become dangerous. The wheel can explode on you, things like that. If I have to do that, I try not to, but if I have to, I can clamp it on, walk away from it, and not be anywhere near it while it's airing up. A lot of people try to use some kind of lubricant around the edge of the rim, soap and water, things like that, to try to make the wheel seat easier. I try not to do that if I can, because you start losing, your tire can spin on the wheel, things like that. You definitely don't want to use something like WD-40 that isn't going to dry. So if you have to use it, use something that's going to dry so that the wheel will stick back. But try to put it on there without it, and we will do that right now. I'm going to put the air chuck on it, get the air going in. You hear it leaking out. It's not taking the seat. You can see I can still kind of push in on it. What I need to do then is put it on there, give it a good few whacks, see if we can't get it to stick. Alright, you heard the pitch change. That's because the wheel's seated. Now all I gotta do is air it up, and you should hear a pop each time the wheel, one for the front, one for the back, when the wheel sets on there. There's one. And there's two. Once you hear the two pops, it's set. Make sure you don't stop before you hear those two pops. You don't want to air the tire up super tight. Like I said, it could explode on you. This probably has about 20-25 pounds of air in it right now, so that's not too dangerous. If it takes a lot of air and you're going up 40-50 pounds, you need to stop and either readjust the way the wheel's fitting, or put some water on it, put some soap on it, something to make it sit. What I like to do now is I don't want to go ahead, or I want to set the air pressure, but I don't want to set it with my air pressure gauge right now. This is my little racing gauge, and it only goes to 15 pounds. If I've got 20 or 25 pounds of air in the tire, if I put the gauge on it, it's going to damage my gauge. It's going to hurt the needle, and it won't measure correctly. And even though this is an old one, I still don't want to mess it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my little valve stem remover. I'm going to take the valve stem out, let all the air out of the tire, and then just put a little bit back in it and check it as I go. That way I won't hurt my gauge. let all the air out, I put the valve stem back in, and then I filled it up to 15 pounds of air pressure in it right now. That is a little bit more than I run, but what I'm going to do is in 2 days I'll come out, I'll check it, see how much air is in it. That way I'll know if there's a leak or not. We can kind of check beforehand, and all I've got here is an old bottle with some soap and water in it. And if you kind of go around the edge, spray a little soap and water. If there's any leaks anywhere, it'll make bubbles, and I don't see any bubbles coming out. I'll check this side, I'll flip it over, check the other side. No bubbles, I'm probably good. You can always have a leak around the valve stem somewhere, a hole in the wheel, a hole in the tire, something like that. So it is a good idea to set the air pressure and come back and check it later. Racing tires tend to lose a little air pressure, so if it's just a pound or two low after I come and check it after several days, I'm not really that worried about it. If I come out here 2 days later and it's flat, something's wrong, I need to fix it. If you've got a big barrel or something, we've actually used as a dunk tape before. You cut a barrel in half and we can put the whole tire down in it and see if we see any bubbles. That's a lot of work. This is a lot easier. This tire is mounted, it's done, everything's finished. All I'm going to do now is mount it on the car and it's ready to go. Okay, I've got my beadlock wheel here. To get the tire on it, all I got to do is work it over the edge just a little bit and kind of set it on here. Now this is an Arrow beadlock. Some of the other ones have it too, but I really like the Arrow because the ring's got this little lip on it right here. It's got like a step down in it. So when I put this on here, the step fits over the wheel. It centers the wheel, or centers the tire onto the wheel, and it makes a really good seal. So all I have to do is get my bolts lined up, my little tray here, and start putting the bolts in it as I go around. Alright, I've got all the bolts started except for this one, and I wanted to show you. This bolt has a little like washer made onto it. These are really good because they don't distort the ring so bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the last one, and now that I've got them all started, I'm going to take my impact wrench and I'm going to snug them all down. Not tighten them, but just snug them all down. Now that I've got them all snugged down, I'm going to take my regular old just ratchet wrench. I'm going to go around and check and make sure they're all real tight. Now, we air up the beadlock tire exactly the same way with one little twist. Because it's got the beadlock ring on it, this front side's already set. So here's a little trick. I just take a bucket or a can or something about this size. I can set the tire on it. Then when I go to air it up, I can push down and get that back bead to catch. So I put my air chuck on it, push down. The back's caught, and we just wait on it to air up all the way and for the bead to set. That pop means it's done.